Alright, so I got your question regarding how to get multiple mocap characters pipeline through MotionBuilder and into Maya. So essentially, why it probably isn't working for you is because the characters and their rigs have the exact or very similar naming conventions, and Maya doesn't know what to do with duplicate information. So let's look at how we could go about fairly easily fixing that. So let's start off with creating a second character based off of our fuse model rig that has slightly different naming conventions. So I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop this into Maya, and that pops up with the FBX importer, and I'm going to go to import. Cool. I do have my X-ray skeleton toggled on just so I can see things. Okay. So we need to rename some stuff. So for what we have up here, this is pretty easy, right? We can go to ICE2, and then if it's your third character, you name it ICE3, fourth character ICE4, and so forth. Looks like we have, what, some eyelashes? Probably call those eyelashes if we want to keep those. Too. And body underscore 2. Okay, so this is pretty easy just to go through and add underscores on the geo real quick, right? But when we start looking at all this stuff that we have for the skeleton, this could be a pain in the butt to try to go through and double click and call this right shoulder 2, right arm, you know, all that. And because we still got more, right? That could be a serious pain in the butt. So let me show you a trick that can help you rename all this very quickly. Okay, so what you want to do is just go ahead and click. Don't have multiple things clicked, just click off. Come over here and click on the hips. I'm going to collapse that. So that's all we need selected. We need to select all of the joints. And so an easy way to do that, by selecting the hips, I'm going to come down here to where in the very bottom right hand corner where we see this little semicolon, that is our script editor. And we're going to type this. Select, and I'll type it all again, select space minus sign HI semicolon. So what this is basically saying, it's saying select the hierarchy. That's just a shortened flag for hierarchy. It's saying select the hierarchy of anything that I have selected. So anything that is underneath this plus sign, all this stuff is going to get selected. So I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to come up here, I'm going to click the little play button. And now you see how that automatically selects everything in there? Alright, cool. I don't need that open because I know that that does that, but I wanted to show you that. Okay, so we have all the joints selected. Now to rename them. So I'm going to come up to modify, and we're going to come down to search and replace names, and we want to type a $sign in search for. So what that's going to do is it's going to keep the primary name, right? Hips or arm or whatever. It's going to keep that. And the replace with is going to essentially put an _2 at the end. So essentially $sign _2. Unless this is your third character, then you need to put _3, fourth character _4, and so on. Okay, cool. All the skeletons selected, search and replace, and now we're going to click replace. And now you can see it's renamed everything. Hips _2, spine _2, and we're totally good. Okay, cool. So I'm going to select the eyes, that's the very first thing, and I'm going to shift select the body too. So I'm just going to keep things organized. So I'm going to do Control G to drop all my geometry into a group, and I'm going to call this geo _2, just so that everything matches, right? This is our second character, geo, hips, everything _2. Okay, so I'm going to click the group. I'm going to click the hips or the joints, and I'm going to go to File, Export Selection, And I'm going to put it right in the same place where I've got my characters. I probably should have a character folder. That would be a good idea to do. I don't have that right now because I don't have a ton of characters, but that probably wouldn't be a bad idea. But at this point, I'm going to do fuse model rig 2. Okay. Make sure that, let me do that again. File, export selection. Make sure that you're doing FBX. So save as type FBX. Okay, cool. Fuse model rig 2. Type is FBX. All right, I'm going to click save and export. All right, cool. So I can go ahead and clear this out at this point. So I'm going to do file new scene. And that just gets me ready to kind of re-import and clean some stuff up. All right, so MotionBuilder. Okay, so I've already covered MotionBuilder and how to tweak mocap data. I'm not going to go over all of that. The main purpose here is just to show the pipeline through MotionBuilder and over to Maya. I use the other video for tweaking and fixing mocap data. Okay, first things first. Let's go to our mocap data. This is a motive file and this is a mixmo file. So both of these will work through this process. So I'm going to drag the motive file in first. This is mocap, so we want all takes. Okay. Let's go ahead and click Window and Add Property View. I'm going to dock that right there. Okay. Drag a big box around all my joints. Change this to type R. Click on the first field. 0 tab 0 tab 0 tab 0 tab 0 tab 0. Enter. Okay, I'm going to drag a box off to the side. Get that back to gray. Over here in my asset browser, under templates is characters, and I'm going to drag the character onto the hips, and we're going to characterize in biped. Cool. Now we have a character. We can set this character to character, which is our mocap data. With that, we can click the blue button, bake plot, down to the 3 dots next to the control rig, FKIK. That's all good with me, so we're going to plot that. Okay. So now we have our control rig set on top of our mocap data so that we could tweak it. Okay. Next thing is we've got to get our character in here. So I'm going to drag our first character in. FBX merge. There is no animation. Okay. I cannot see my skeleton, so I'm going to change the display to X-ray. Again, I'm going to characterize this set of hips. I'm going to drag the character out onto that. Characterize and biped. Cool. So now we have character 1, which is the character that we just imported. So I'm going to change the character to him. But I want the source to be the mocap data, which is character. Cool. Again, you can tweak all this through animation layers and whatnot, but we're not going to do that. The next thing we need to do is we need to get the mocap data baked onto the skeleton, so to speak. So the way we do that, we're on character 1. We're going to click the blue button again. We're going to go bake plot, bake to skeleton, 3 dots, and plot. Cool. So now his skeleton actually has all the data on it now. So that's great. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to File, Export, Motion File Export, and we're going to call this. Let's call it Care Mocap 1, and save and export. Cool. So what we need to do is we'll go ahead and clean this up, and then we'll run through the same process for the next character, and then we'll get them both imported. All right. Character mocap 1. We need to clean this up a little bit, so we're going to drag this into a clean scene of Maya. I'm going to delete everything except for the very last skeleton rig. Okay. Cool. Drag a box around all that, or select the hips. We're going to do File, Export Selection, and that is here. So I'm going to get that file path in there. I need to change the type back to FBX. Okay, and so I'm just going to do character mocap 1_2 since this is our cleaned up version, and export selection. Cool. Do File, New Scene, get this back to a clean scene so that we can set this up to clean up our second character. All right, back to MotionBuilder. We're going to go to File, New, and we're going to run through that same process. Okay, this time we're going to take our Mixamo mocap, drag and drop, all takes, drag a box around everything, get it all green, change the type to R type, 0 tab 0 tab 0. You'll notice there's only one line because the Mixamo data is a little different than our motive, but that's perfectly fine. All right, cool. So he's in his T pose. Again, I drag the box over here to make this gray. Drag character out onto the hips. Get those green. Characterize. Flat bit. Set character to character. The big blue button, bake plot. The control rig, FKIK, and plot. Cool. Let's get our second character in here. There's no animation. Okay. Let's zoom in. I'm fighting his geo a little bit, but at some point his hips will light up. And then I let go. Characterize and biped. Alright, so his character for our character is character 1. So we're going to set it to character 1, but we're going to set his source to mocap data, which is character. Again, we need to bake this animation onto his skeleton. So to do that, bake blue button, bake plot, bake to skeleton, and plot. Cool. Now let's export that. I'm going to call this character mocap 2. And let's export that. Okay. Back to Maya. Alright, so now we're going to drag and drop character mocap 2 in here. Cool. So right away we can see the name changes that we made, right? We don't need geo. We can see what we name things, so that's what we want to keep. So I'm going to delete everything else, and now we have this hips 2, and that should look familiar because that's what we named it. All right, so I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to do File, Export Selection, and do that character mocap 2_2, which is now our cleaned up version. So I'm going to export that selection and close. All right, so let's get all that in here now. So I'm going to do New Scene and do Don't Save. All right, cool. So we're going to want to use our _2s for our mocap data, but we're going to want to use that with our character models. Okay, so I'm going to pull my first character in. Cool. So let's go test out his mocap data. And that's that mocap 1_2. So I'm going to drag and drop that in here. Cool. We have some data on him. Alright, so let's get our second character in here. And there he is. And now let's go get the cleaned up mocap data on him. So that's the character mocap2 underscore 2. So we're just going to drag and drop that in here. And now, as you can see, we have two characters in here doing two totally different things. So now if I want to move these around, one easy way to do that is just to take the skeleton and just put that into a group. So I'm going to do Control G. I've got a group for that. And I'm going to call this skeleton 2 or whatever you want to name that. And now I can move that around, scale them up and down, rotate in or whatnot with this group that I dropped that in here. So essentially, we can make this guy looking a little like Gollum and put him right in front of that guy. Yeah. So now we have two characters with mocap data. Alright, cool. Last thing I'll point out real quick, just remember we can pretty easily retime things if we need to. For example, I think he throws a punch at some point, right? Maybe like right there. Maybe we want him to like fall down like when he gets hit. Okay. Well, this guy's data, I'm going to click on his hips. And I can't do just the hips, right? I need all the data, which is all the joints. So again, that's where we can come in here and type in the select hierarchy. And so I select his hips. I'll click the play button. Okay, cool. And again, like in our animation class, we go over how to do this in the graph editor, but with all the joints selected, I'll just show you real quick how to do that here. So I'm going to hold shift and I'm going to drag a red box around all of it. You don't see it. If we went to negative space, we would. There's an arrow off to the side, an arrow to here. That's to time stretch it essentially, but there's two little arrows. I don't know if you can see it in the video, but one's pointing this way and one is pointing this way. And these two are in the middle of all this. So to move this, the ones on the end scale it, but to move it, we want to use the ones in the middle. So I'm going to grab that little arrow pointing to the right, and I'm just going to shift all that around to where that punch is. So looks like that punch is around 556. So I'm going to shift drag again. I'm going to move all this a little bit again. Maybe offset it a little bit again. So shift drag again and oops, shift drag again. Grab that little arrow, move a little bit further. We need to make him a little taller. Getting off on a little bit of a tangent here, but I just kind of wanted to show you real quickly like how you can do some of that stuff to get both of them in here. So now you've got some mocap data and whatnot that you can kind of start to work together. All right, cool.